Welcome back to episode 7 of the Heated Exchange, brought to you by Blitz Analytics. As usual, my name's Austin Geller, along with Jett Rosenstein. Jett, how are you today?
I am doing great. Another episode in the books where I'm happy to be here as always with you talking some fantasy football. We have some great stuff to get to. Talk about the Blitz League. We'll talk about some start sits, some buy low, sell highs as we're officially in week 3. We obviously had that Thursday night football game last night, so I am very excited. Austin, what are you feeling about this episode?
Well, first off, I want to send out my condolences to all Christian McCaffrey owners. You never want to see a guy get hurt, especially a guy who's the best player in fantasy football. But other than that, I mean, I'm excited for this episode. We have a lot to talk about today, and I cannot wait to get into a lot of it.
Yeah, I think we might as well just talk a little bit about the Christian McCaffrey thing before we get into the meat of the episode. But yeah, so he injured his hamstring. There's not an official timetable on how many weeks he's going to miss just yet, but it does have intense ramifications for fantasy owners. This was pretty much everyone's first number 1 overall pick in every league. Now, Chuba Hubbard is set to take over the bulk of the carries. How do you feel about him going forward?
People need to be cautious with him. I personally, like, if he's on your waiver wire, I wouldn't invest too much into him. I know Mike Davis came in last year and lit it up, but that was a completely different situation where Teddy Bridgewater was the quarterback. It's Sam Darnold is a gunslinger on that team, and I mean DJ Moore has been, except for McCaffrey, DJ Moore's been the probably most benefited player in the Sam Darnold era. So I really would not expect Hubbard to have a huge role. I think they're going to put the ball in Darnold's hands a little more now on how to make some plays, which actually bodes well for Robbie Anderson owners, such as myself and in one of my leagues. After the awful performance he had last night that I'd rather not get into anymore.
I think Anderson will be fine now because obviously we saw last year when McCaffrey wasn't involved, it was those 3 wide receivers, Curtis Samuel, Anderson, and Moore. Now that McCaffrey's going to be out for the immediate future, I think Anderson will be fine once again. So
100%.
All right, let's get into the first segment of this show. We're going to talk about the official Blitz Analytics Fantasy Football League. Another week in the books. Some teams are doing
another win for me. Sorry.
Hey, I unfortunately
another loss for you. Just saying.
I'm 0-2. Austin is 2-0. But this week we face off against one another, and it's going to be an intense matchup. And I'm ready for it. I'm ready to upset.
Now, when you say intense, like, what do you mean by intense? Like, you think it'll actually be close?
I do think it'll be close. You want to know why it'll be close? Because I just acquired Tyreek Hill. That's why. That'll be the difference.
And considering I put up over 200 points every week, you have yet to even cross that margin once.
What goes up must come down.
Except in this case, what goes up with me, I defy the laws of gravity. What goes up stays up in my book.
I don't know. Let's take a look at the matchup right here. So just so everyone gets a good idea of where we're looking at. So Austin's starting quarterback is Kyler Murray. Mine is Josh Allen. Kyler Murray has been insane. Obviously, he's the number 1 quarterback
Josh Allen plays Washington. So
Josh Allen plays Washington, but this is the game. This is going to be his best game of the year so far. Despite it being against Washington, they're at home. He looked better last week, so it's close between the quarterbacks, I think.
No, it's not. Kyler Murray's on a whole other level right now. You can't even argue that.
Now, here's where we get so much in my favor right here. The running back situation. I don't know what we got on Austin's side here. Austin has Clyde Edwards-Helaire as his RB1. Austin Eckler is my RB1. I don't really get what's going on there, Austin.
Honestly, it's unfortunate because Austin Eckler is my guy. I have him in so many other leagues. I was so high on him this year. You definitely beat me in the running back department, and I mean that's been every matchup so far this season. With me, my running backs have just been awful. But what I lack in running backs, I make up in my receiving core and my super flex. So let's get into that.
Hold on. I just want to make sure everyone knows that your RB2 is Jamal Williams and mine is Chris Carson. Just want to make that known.
You have a better running back duo than I do, but that does not stop me from scoring over 200 points a week. Now has it, Jett?
No,
Can you say the same? I don't think so.
We're looking at the wide receiver core now, and it's a lot different than what it would have been if I didn't have Tyreek Hill. I think it's a lot closer than we should have expected coming to this matchup because I made that trade. But what do you think?
It's a lot closer, but still not close.
Oh my God.
Understand me? Like it was a large disparity before. Now it was a very large disparity. Now it's just a large disparity. See the difference?
It's obviously when we get it down to the flexes and super flex, then it gets a little more in your favor, I think. But
little.
Yeah, it's a little. I don't think it's. I think I'm still gonna pull this game out. I think
who's your super flex? Who's starting?
Justin Fields.
Justin Fields. Okay.
First game starting in the NFL. He's going against the Browns, but I have a lot of faith in him that he's going to put up at least 20 plus points.
The Browns. Yeah. Honestly, I'd love to see Justin Fields in his first ever start with Myles Garrett coming at him.
All right, we have this on record. We'll come back here next week and see how Justin Fields really did.
Look, I never root for a guy to do poorly, and obviously I don't want him to do poorly. Obviously, in fantasy, I would. I'd rather him do bad, but I think it's going to be a tough matchup for Fields. I think just your first ever game against a team with a tough defense and a beast of a man in Myles Garrett. I mean, good luck to Fields. Also, that Bears O-line, doesn't look fantastic. But we'll see.
I mean, you kind of left a lot of points on your bench from this Thursday night game. Brandon Cooks, 21 points on your bench. Do you regret sitting him?
No. I mean, in hindsight, now, obviously, I wish I started him. But in the moment, I don't regret the decision. I mean, with David Mills starting, and Carolina's defense looking good the past 2 weeks, I just did not think Cooks would have a game like that. But,
I don't fault you for doing that. I advocated people sitting Brandon Cooks in my Blitz Analytics article this week because Davis Mills, we didn't know what we were going to get from him, but it's clear that Brandon Cooks is the only option on that Texans offense until teams start to maybe double cover him or do something.
Triple cover him, cover him. Literally send all, everyone on the field to get on him. Do something. Only gonna happen.
Yeah, but it's gonna be an exciting matchup. I'm just trying to say it could come down to Monday night. Austin has Amari Cooper in the Monday night game as well as Jalen Hurts. So Austin may be trailing heading into that Monday night game. So we'll see if he can if he's trailing, if he can potentially make a comeback there. So
very big if. It's a very big if.
We'll see.
2-0, man. I'm 2-0.
I know you're 2-0.
I'm feeling good.
Someone's gonna have to take you down eventually, and why not this week?
Certainly won't be you.
I think so. It'll be me. It will be me.
You think a lot
we know my history against you in fantasy football leagues, our matchups in the past, and it's leaned in my favor. So why not that trend continue?
Very different league. Very different league. We've never done super flex leagues, and apparently I'm good at it. So, and you can't say the same.
I'm good at it. It's just I've had some bad luck. Some guys underperforming. So
bad luck. Oh, my whole team's hurt. Yeah, it's the same excuse every time.
We will be all right here. So I'll be back.
I could talk smack to you all day, and believe me, I really could. But let's get into what we're really.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Let's get into the first set. We're going to talk some start sits. I'm going to base this off of Fantasy Pros' rankings. Some guys that are right next to each other in the rankings. Austin's going to tell me who he rather start for week number 3. Austin, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, the first one we have here, would you start Tom Brady versus the LA Rams or Justin Herbert against the Chiefs?
Give me Tom Brady. I know it's a very unorthodox pick because, the Chiefs defense doesn't look great, but Tom Brady he's thrown for 9 touchdowns already in 2 games. I mean, that offense looks unstoppable right now. And frankly, the Rams, they didn't look fantastic against the Colts last week. They gave up, 24 points?
Yeah.
And the Bucs have a much better offense. They have a much better line. They have much better receivers. Frankly, I have no doubts starting Tom Brady this week in any leagues.
Oh, I do this so often, and I'm going to do it again, but I have to take Justin Herbert. I've counted Tom Brady out so many times, and I'm doing it again, but it's okay because the Chiefs-Chargers game, it's gonna be a shootout, the Chiefs-Chargers game, and Herbert's going to put up points. It's going to go back and forth. It's going to be a great game for fantasy. Tom Brady's traveling across the country to Los Angeles to play a top 5 Rams defense. I know, like you're saying, they didn't look great against the Colts last week. But I just think that Tom Brady's had 2 easy matchups to start the season. Don't get me wrong, he's the GOAT, and I hate to do this, but it's gonna. I picked the Rams to win this game, and I think they'll be able to stop the Bucs offense. I do.
Well, honestly, I mean, I am rooting for the Rams. They actually are my pick to win that division this year. But I've argued against Brady so much in my past. I can't argue the stats. What he's done so far is remarkable.
Yeah. I guess I haven't learned my lesson yet. So we'll find out what comes of this after the games on Sunday. But moving on, let's talk some running backs. Who would you start? Would you start Saquon Barkley against the Atlanta Falcons or Antonio Gibson versus the Bills?
Give me Saquon Barkley.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Saquon Barkley to take back his position as a top-tier elite RB1. This man played 87% of the snaps, I believe, last week. He's had 10 days off of rest. He has looked good in every game he played in so far. He's cutting well. He's moving well. The Giants are working him back slowly. This is a guy who is due for a breakout game, and I think that happens this week against a god-awful, porous Atlanta defense. I think Daniel Jones looked fantastic last week, and I think Saquon's going to be the beneficiary this week from that.
Yeah, I mean, there's still obviously plenty of concerns about what we're going to see from Saquon. Obviously, he did pull off a nice big run against the Washington football team last week. He looked a lot better. His snap percentage went up. His amount of carries he got went up. He's only going to get better as the season goes on. I do think he is the better start in this scenario just because we haven't really seen Gibson take over that workhorse role quite yet, although it could happen as the season progresses. I am going to take Saquon in part because this is the better matchup. He still is the leading ball carrier in that backfield. He's the workhorse. Like, there's no way around it. It's hard to even think about benching Saquon. I know a lot of people thought about it last week. Obviously, it wasn't the worst idea, but going forward, I think Saquon, after a few more games, he will eventually knock off all that rust, and he will be just fine for fantasy.
Frankly, I don't think there's much rust with him. I just think the Giants are working him back slowly and really trying to make sure he doesn't get overexerted and overused. And I mean, he played much more snaps last week compared to week 1, and I think that trend will continue. And eventually, you will see as the year progresses, he will end up getting that workhorse role, like you just said before. And I think he'll end up being back to an elite RB1.
All right, another pair of running backs that people may be deciding between this upcoming week. 2 guys that we didn't really think we'd be talking about coming into this season. Elijah Mitchell of the 49ers going up against the Green Bay Packers, and Tyson Williams of the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Detroit Lions. Who do you got?
Give me Elijah Mitchell.
Barring that he does play. He
does play, yes.
Yeah.
Give me Mitchell. Couple reasons here. One, talking about the Ravens for a second. I think they finally discovered that, wait a minute, Lamar Jackson actually can run again. I think they forgot he's a running back on week 1 against the Raiders. Last week, Lamar Jackson actually used his legs for once, and look what happened. They cannot be stopped. I think it's going to be more Lamar Jackson running the ball now. I think it's going to be more Lamar running, and I think he's going to start throwing a little more too now once he gets the defenses off balance. I think you'll see Williams have a fine game. I think he'll probably put up 11, 12 points, I think. But I think Mitchell's in for a game more. I think he'll find the end zone a couple times. I think San Fran has had Green Bay's number in the past, and frankly, I think San Fran's look tough defensively, and I think they're going to run all over Green Bay on Sunday.
Yeah, honestly though, I don't think this one is close. I'm going Tyson Williams here. I think it's a smash start against a Detroit Lions team that just gave up 40 plus points to Aaron Jones. I get Aaron Jones, a totally different player. But seemingly the Lions weren't able to stop the 49ers in week 1. They couldn't stop the Packers in week 2. It's going to be much of the same in week 3 against the Ravens. I know Lamar is probably the primary ball carrier on this team. But among running backs, Tyson Williams will get the bulk of the carries. I know Latavius Murray, Devontae Freeman are there. Williams, he has looked productive, even though he has had some fumbling issues. I think that he has a good shot at finding the end zone if they use him on the goal line. I know Latavius Murray has sniped a few touchdowns from him, but if Lamar is going to dump it off to any running back, it'll most likely be Tyson Williams. I just think for me, it's a no-brainer considering the matchup and the opportunity. The 49ers, we cannot forget that sometimes they'll go with the hot hand approach. So if Elijah Mitchell is not working out, they may turn to someone like Trey Sermon, or I don't even know who else is on that running back room right now, like Jermichael Hasty's injured. Trenton Cannon, I guess, would be the other guy. But yeah, I think Tyson Williams is the correct answer in my opinion.
Now, you alluded to last week or last Monday's Lions-Packers game where Aaron Jones had a 40-plus game. Let's keep in mind for a second, he scored 3 touchdowns through the air. He had 3. The Ravens aren't doing that. Tyson Williams is not doing that. Like, Lamar Jackson is not throwing to Tyson Williams like that. Like, if they're scoring on the ground, it's going to be Latavius Murray doing the scoring or Lamar Jackson doing the scoring. So the only way Williams really has – the only way he has a great game is if he rushes for over 100 yards, which I don't see that happening at this point. And I think and if San Fran, they're going to give it to Mitchell. They're giving it to Mitchell. If it's a goal-line situation, it's going to Mitchell.
It also, though, depends, though, because we saw Elijah Mitchell struggle last week, and they started to use more of Jermichael Hasty and Trey Sermon. That's just, like, my thought. Like, it's a backfield I kind of want to avoid.
Wrong.
Tyson Williams is the lead ball carrier in the Ravens backfield right now.
Wrong.
Why am I wrong?
Because you're always wrong.
Really? Really? I didn't know that.
That works.
I'm usually right more than you are, though, so that doesn't make any sense.
You're wrong again. Doing a very good job at this.
All right, let's move on to another start sit that I'll probably have a better response to than Austin. So let's go to the wide receiver position right here. Plenty of big controversial takes between a few of these guys here, but the one that I'm going to pose to Austin is going to be Sterling Shepard versus the Atlanta Falcons or Juju Smith-Schuster against the Bengals.
Oh, give me Sterling Shepard all day, every day. This man has been on a tear his first 2 games of the year. I mean, he is Daniel Jones' favorite target. I believe he had over 10 targets last week against one of the best defenses in the league. I think he's found the end zone now both weeks at this point, I believe.
I believe so, yes.
And Juju, and I've said this from the beginning, stay away from all Pittsburgh receivers. I know Juju scored week 1, but I think he had a rushing touchdown. So Juju's not a reliable option. And plus, it's against the Bengals. Divisional matchups are typically a little tougher. I think typically a little more low scoring. And the Falcons have a porous defense. Obviously, you saw Tampa last week obliterate them. Shepard's been on a roll, and I'm sticking with the hot hand, Sterling Shepard. No question.
Yeah, so actually Sterling Shepard didn't score a touchdown last week, but he had one week 1. But beside that fact, I'm very tempted to go Juju Smith-Schuster here in large part because now Deontay Johnson was ruled out today. He will not be playing in this game. But like you're saying, Sterling Shepard is the hot hand right now. He's looked fantastic. I mean, after years of mediocrity where he didn't even finish higher than wide receiver 30, he's currently the wide receiver 9 in PPR leagues. He's been Daniel Jones's favorite target, arguably. We don't know if obviously this is going to continue, but he does have an unbelievable matchup against the Falcons this week. He most likely will get in that 15 to potential 20-point range. He could find the end zone. But yeah, I think Juju is just like no upside. Claypool will probably be more involved. James Washington will probably be more involved. And honestly, the whole Steelers offense is really a mess right now anyways.
Yeah. I've said it also. In addition to staying away from any Pittsburgh receiver, the only guy to have on offense is Najee Harris at the moment, and Deontay. But now that Deontay's out, I think since he's gonna make an effort to take away Juju, and I think they're gonna double him. If I had to guess, and frankly, I don't trust Big Ben. I still don't trust him. The Pittsburgh offense does not look good, and now that they're down a weapon, I think they're gonna struggle.
Yeah, so yeah, I agree. I mean, Big Ben has actually been dealing with some injury issues. Honestly hasn't even been the same since he had that Tommy John like surgery on his elbow. But yeah, I got another start sit question from the wide receiver position. Rondell Moore, who had a fantastic week 2 going up against the Jaguars here in week 3, or Michael Pittman Jr., who had another great performance week 2. This week is going against the Titans. Who do you prefer in this?
Give me Michael Pittman. Rondell Moore, by the way, last week, I mean, fantastic game, but if you really watch the game, the touchdown he had was kind of just Kyler Murray making the play happen and him scrambling and the defense is losing coverage, and he just happened to find Moore wide open. Wasn't really a great play on Moore's part. It was really Kyler doing it. Pittman, though, has been very good this year so far. His route running has been fantastic. He's been catching a lot of balls already. He's looked really good in that Colts offense, and I think that is more sustainable. The volume and the yardage, I think that is more sustainable because Pittman's actually making those plays. Rondell Moore happened to be the beneficiary last week of a broken down defense because of Kyler Murray. So, and plus Tennessee cannot defend anybody at the moment. So even though Wentz may not even play, give me Michael Pittman.
Yeah, this is a tough one because after Michael Pittman really had a down week 1, when mainly the running backs were involved in the passing game, he really found his groove and he built his chemistry with Carson Wentz in week 2. However, I'm going to go with Rondell Moore in this situation right here. I know they both have pretty good matchups. Obviously, the Cardinals playing the Jaguars, that's probably going to be a blowout game, and Kyler Murray is going to be cooking once again in this game. The thing with Rondell Moore, while he has played limited snaps, it seems when he's ever on the field, Kyler Murray makes it a point to look his way. They design plays to make sure he's involved despite the limited snap count. I mean, he had over 100 yards on 7 receptions with 8 targets last week with the touchdown, as Austin mentioned. He finished as the wide receiver 6. Obviously, we don't know if this is going to be able to continue just because there's a lot of mouths to feed on this Arizona Cardinals offense. But I think the biggest question for me surrounding Michael Pittman this week is, will we see Carson Wentz? I think if Carson Wentz does not go, it's a big knock to Michael Pittman and the whole Colts offense. So I think with how explosive this Cardinals offense has been, there's plenty of room to go around for Rondell Moore to have another great week.
Well, here's what I'll say to that is, you start Rondell Moore, he definitely has a higher ceiling than Michael Pittman for sure. Rondell Moore could absolutely go off for, the same kind of game as last week, but he can also have a game where he only catches 3 balls for 28 yards. And it's a quiet game. Whereas Michael Pittman, yeah, he probably won't go off for 30 points, but he'll have a game where he can get you 7 catches for 87 yards and have a solid outing. So if you want someone, I think, with more consistency, and he's probably not going to give you a huge game, Pittman, if you're going to take the risk and actually want someone who can give you a huge performance, then yeah, I guess Rondell Moore.
All right, final one, we're going to go over to the tight end position here. Actually, a couple of guys Austin and I were talking about before we came on to record this episode. Noah Fant against the New York Jets, or Rob Gronkowski against the Los Angeles Rams?
This is tough, but give me Noah Fant.
Okay.
Fact is, Noah Fant is a tight end 1 in this league now. With Jerry Jeudy being absent, we saw last week, Bridgewater looked for Fant a lot. He had a great game last week. And frankly, I know Gronk has been on a tear, but 4 touchdowns in 2 weeks, I mean, that is just so unsustainable, in my opinion. And the Rams are a tough defense. They're going to come in and they're going to try to keep Gronk out of there. I don't think the touchdowns are sustainable from a receiving standpoint. I know I said before Brady's. I know I said start Brady before because he's thrown for 9 touchdowns, but it's different as a quarterback. But as a receiver, to really make more of your money on the touchdowns, I don't think that's sustainable. So, frankly, give me Fant, who's a more reliable option.
Yeah, before I just get into this, I just wanted to make a note on we talked about Elijah Mitchell before. He was just downgraded to doubtful. So that's just something to keep an eye on. Obviously, in that scenario, Tyson Williams would be the start now. But
yes.
Yeah, but anyways, regarding Noah Fant and Rob Gronkowski, as good as both guys have been, it is definitely a very tough decision. I'm going to go with Gronk here. I think he's going to be able to continue this in the matchup against the Rams. He's not going to score 2 touchdowns every game. Obviously, that's not sustainable. But one thing that is a positive for him this week, he won't have to deal with Antonio Brown to compete with targets. Antonio Brown is out because of COVID. It seems like Brady's throwing the most touchdowns to Gronk. And in the red zone, he's definitely going to look his way more than any other option on this team, maybe besides Mike Evans. But yeah, the touchdowns are definitely not sustainable. I think this is honestly Brady's favorite target up to this point in the season. You can make an argument for Noah Fant to start here. It's a great matchup against the Jets. He's been productive both weeks. I'm just going to take – I know I'm kind of contradicting myself here, but I'm going to take the better quarterback in this scenario, Tom Brady, rather than Teddy Bridgewater. So, yeah.
Well, honestly, this actually reminds me a little bit of the last starts that we had with Rondale Moore and Pittman. I think Gronk has a higher ceiling because Brady loves him in the red zone so much. I think Gronk, again, he can go off for a 20-something point game this week. But do I think he will? No. But can he? Yes. Higher probability than Fant will. I think Fant's a guy. He's not going to give you 20 points. I think his range is probably from like the 10 to 18 range. But I think because of the matchup, I just like, especially against a porous Jets defense right now, who cannot defend a chair. I give me Noah Fant.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with all these sit options. We'll see which ones come out on top. Hopefully all the ones that I pick most likely. But let's move on to another segment we got here. We're going to talk some buy low, sell high. This is pretty much a prime time to really get some of those guys that you want for cheaper than when they were drafted, just because there's been a lot of outlier performances, a lot of guys that have come out of nowhere, like a Sterling Shepard. And then there's been guys like a Justin Jefferson who has not gotten going just yet. So we're going to first talk about some buy low candidates that we'd love to trade for before week 3 gets underway. Austin, who's your first guy?
For buy low, and I talked about him before, it is Saquon Barkley. Saquon obviously was, drafted in the first round in a million leagues this year, as he should be, because he is a first round talent for sure. He has not lit it up at all this year yet, but it is coming, and I think this week's the week where you start seeing that come back. I think he's in for one of those, big 100-yard. He'll find the end zone kind of games this week, and you'll see that the Giants are going to incorporate him a little more into the offense. So if you can get him right now for a cheap price, do it. I don't think there's really any risk to it. I am a strong believer in Saquon now. So yeah, that's my buy low.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a risky buy low, but I think like now's the time. If he does end up going off, this is the best time for you to get someone like him. So that is definitely a good option to check in on another fantasy owner to see how you could acquire Saquon Barkley. But for me, my favorite buy low at this point is Antonio Gibson of the Washington football team. Coming into the season, there was a lot of talk out of training camp that they want to put him in that Christian McCaffrey type role. Obviously, that has not come into fruition just yet. But in my opinion, I feel a lot of that has to do with the team trying to ease him back into action. He has dealt with some issues in training camp in the first few weeks of this season. Once he's fully healthy, he will get that workhorse role, I believe. It is a longer season, so I do understand why they are easing him back in. I get there are some concerns about J.D. McKissick's involvement in the passing game, especially late in the game against the Giants last week. But Antonio Gibson was a receiver in college. That's his bread and butter right there. And he's looked even better as a running back because he's totally mastered running between the tackles and in and out of in and out of the line of scrimmage. But yeah, I think Antonio Gibson is a very nice buy low. Check in on a panicking Antonio Gibson owner like I did and see if you can get him for cheaper than when he went for.
Absolutely. I'm big supporter of that.
Do you have another buy low or do you want to talk about some sell highs?
You can go some sell highs.
All right, Austin, who's your top sell high right now?
My sell high, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, but my sell high is Aaron Jones at the moment. Aaron Jones had an incredible game last Monday, and he had the same kind of game last year in week 2 against the Lions in Green Bay, I believe. He had the same kind of game. 40-point. I think he had 3 or 4 touchdowns last year in week 2. And I just acquired him that week. And I was so confident the next week, and he put up a dud.
Yeah.
And even for the next couple weeks, Aaron Jones is the kind of guy who is good for 3 huge games like that a year. Besides those games, it's not Aaron Jones. Like he is going to disappoint like it is every year. So right now, if you can get him, or if you could sell him, I should say, for a lot, even for maybe a little lower end RB1 or a high end RB2 and a high wire 2 or low wire 1, you can get him for 2 good people. I would do it because Aaron Jones, I mean, this is not surprising to me, what he did the other night. So sell him now if you can. Obviously, I'm not telling you to sell him, but history has proven that Aaron Jones is good for 3 of those big games a year, and after that, not much.
I don't disagree that he's a good sell high option just because if you can get a big package for him in return, it's definitely worth it. However, I do think this year is going to be a little bit different in regards to his inconsistencies. The main reason being that Jamal Williams is no longer on this team, and Jamal Williams was heavily involved in this passing game. A.J. Dillon is not that kind of back, and we have not seen him involved in the passing game. Aaron Jones is the guy in the passing game. And, I mean, he scored 3 touchdowns through the air this past Monday. Obviously, he's not going to score 3 touchdowns a game, 4 touchdowns a game. He's not going to score 40 points every game. But I think that his floor got a little bit higher just because Jamal Williams is no longer on this Packers offense. And I think that while he has a very good sell high, he's not – I don't think we're going to – I know we saw week 1 where he put up a dud, but I don't think it's going to be like other years where he has 3 big weeks and that's it.
I hope not. But I've fallen into the trap in the past of having Aaron Jones and, expecting him to do big things after a week like last week, and he just disappoints every time. But again, this could be different. Like you said, no more Jamal Williams. Maybe that's the reason why. Maybe now he'll actually be more consistent, but stats don't lie. History doesn't lie, but also, yes, there's different circumstances now.
Yes, so my sell high, I'm kind of beating the same drum that I've been beating in the past few weeks. My sell high is Derrick Henry, and he had a huge week 2, obviously, against the Seattle Seahawks, but it took him the whole first half to really get it going. And I'm not saying, like, in a similar scenario to Aaron Jones, I'm not saying to sell Derrick Henry. I'm saying that you should check in on what you can get for him, because there's a lot of people that will give you the world for him right now, considering if people believe that he's going to be able to put these types of performances up. And while he very well could, and it's very encouraging to see him involved in the passing game a little bit more, but time and time again, we've seen Derrick Henry's we've seen him put up these big games, and then him not being involved in the passing game has caused him to have some duds mixed in with some of his big games. And while I have said that Derrick Henry is going to finish outside of the top 10, that's largely due to him not being involved in the passing game. It's possible that it could be different this year. Probably not, but my main reason for noting Derrick Henry as my sell high is just to see what you can get for him. I believe that you can get so much for him, and I think it's very worth it to get someone that's more apt to play in PPR leagues. Is everything okay, Austin?
I'm in disbelief at what just came out your mouth. to anyone watching this, I apologize. And the wise words of Stephen A, but I apologize for the blasphemy that you just heard. Okay. Derrick Henry. His name's King Henry for a reason. Many reasons. Led the league in rushing yards the past 2 seasons. And you say it took him to the second half? That's what he does. Derrick Henry is a second half running back. He wears you down the first half, and then he takes over because no one wants to tackle a 6'3" or 5', 230-pound beast for 4 quarters. That's what he does. Did I expect him to score 3 touchdowns? No. But am I surprised that he actually lit up the second half? Absolutely not. That's what he does.
Are you surprised that he was involved that much in the passing game? He had like 6 receptions, I believe.
Okay, take away the 6 receptions. He still has 40 points. Like, come on, Jett. That's
awesome.
That's
like I said, it's a similar situation to Aaron Jones. I think that people should look to see what they can get for him because you can get a lot for him right now. And obviously he's not going to put up 48 points a game, but eventually his body's going to wear down. And I'm not preying on his downfall or anything like that, but just see what you can get for him and see if you can get a running back that's more suited for a PPR league because the past tells us that Derrick Henry is not built for PPR leagues.
This is exactly why you're 0-2 in the league. This is exactly why you're 0-2. Oh God, that is blasphemy.
If you're so high on Derrick Henry, how come you don't have him in any leagues?
Because I haven't had a top 5 pick in any leagues.
So why haven't you tried and traded for him?
Because I have good running backs in my leagues. I'm fine. And I'm also 2-0 in my league, so don't really need to trade for him.
Yeah, well, that's
maybe should consider it.
The way your teams are constructed, I was just looking at it this morning, and I just started laughing just because like you have no running backs in a lot of leagues, and I don't want to be that guy, but eventually, I think it'll catch up to you, and we'll see where both of our teams are, and all the leagues are together.
All correctly, last year in one of our leagues, you traded for Derrick Henry towards playoffs, and where did that get you? Remind everybody where that got you.
You're proving my point. Derrick Henry's not what it takes to win a championship, obviously, because my whole point was to try and trade for Derrick Henry to potentially propel me for a championship run. Obviously, he was not good enough to do that.
In those weeks he wasn't, but he still ended up leading the league in rushing. Can't argue that. And that's the same argument. That's the same argument Aaron Jones has finished in the top 5 the past 2 years. He's a man amongst boys. Like, oh my God, the audacity. Oh my God, with the audience and everybody. I apologize for having to listen to Jett.
Yeah, I think we'll end it here. I don't think people really want to see Austin this flustered anymore about how great my arguments are.
Be this flustered right now. I was having a very good day until I heard that come out your mouth. I was having a great day. It's beautiful in Bloomington, Indiana today, and had to hear that. Oh God, now I'll be okay. I'll be okay.
Yeah, but that was episode number 7 of the Heated Exchange. Another great week up and coming for NFL and fantasy football alike. We really hope you guys make some great decisions, set your lineups correctly, make some good trades, buy low on some guys, sell high on some guys. We hope, and our goal is to help you win your league. So we hope to be helped to do that for this week.
Absolutely. And also make sure, as usual, check out the website for any fantasy football help. And also send us any trades you want us to analyze for next week or even future weeks. Like anytime you want, that's what we're here for. We love getting into that stuff. So don't be afraid. Reach out. Let us know how we can help you. That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
and
next week Jett? we will be analyzing some trades, some from the Blitz League and other trades that we've seen in other leagues. But Austin, take it away.
Well, on that note, guess you covered it as usual. Can't handle the heat, Jett. Get out of the kitchen, Jett.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.